this video we will learn how to find out the expressions of velocities after collision, expressions of velocities after collision in case of a partly elastic. So first, what do we know? We know that coefficient of restitution E is equal to V2 minus V1, where V2 is the velocity after collision of the second body and V1 is the uh, velocity of the first body after collision, divided by U1 minus U2, where U1 is the velocity of the first body before collision and U2 is the velocity of the second body before collision, right? From this, what we can do? From this, we can just find out that E1 minus EU2 is equal to minus V1, right? This is one of our equations, right? This is one of our equations. Now, if we multiply this equation with M2, multiplying this equation with M2, right? Mass of the second body. Why? I will come to it later. Just multiplying first, then I will explain why I multiplied it with M2. Right? M2 U1. You can write it in your copies, okay, so that you don't get messed up later on. M2 E U2 is equal to M2 V2 minus M2, and from the conservation of linear momentum, what do you know? From the law of conservation of linear momentum, law of conservation of linear momentum. Last day we have done this. The law of conservation of linear momentum, M1 U1 plus M2 U2 is equal to M1 V1 plus M2 V2, right? This was the law of conservation of momentum. Now, if we see that, see here, see this equation, V2 minus V1, and here you have M1 V1 plus M2 V2, right? So, and you need to find out either V1 or you need to find out either V2, right? So, you need to get, if you multiply this with either M1 or M2, then you can get any one. If you suppose you are multiplying this with M2, right, what do you get? M2 V2 minus M2 V1, right? And you see you have M2 V2 here also and you have M2 V2 here also, and you have removed M2 V2 from the equation, right? You have removed M2 V2 from the equation so that you can easily find out V1 now. So you can easily find out V1 now. Understood? That's why I have multiplied it with M2. Now you have two equations. Let this equation, this is first equation. Let this be the first equation and this is the second equation, right? And this is the second equation. So how can you eliminate V2? How can you eliminate V2? If you subtract this 1 from this 2, right? Subtracting equation 1 from equation 2, right? Subtracting equation 1 from equation 2. What you will get? M1 U1 plus M2 U2 minus this, right? And instead of this minus, you will get a plus, and the right hand side will be equal to, say, this and this will cancel out, m1 v2 will cancel out, and you will get v1 within brackets m1 plus m2, m1 plus m2. Understood? So what do we finally get here? v1 will be equal to, see, you can take out the u1 from here. You can take out, if you take out u1, you take out u1 and you get m1 minus em2, m1 minus em2 plus m2 u2 common, m2 u2 common, and you get 1 plus e, 1 plus e, right? And that will be equal to, again, this one. Finally, what will be the value of v1? v1 will be equal to, v1 will be equal to this whole divided by m1 plus m2. So this is how you find out v1. Right? This is how you find out v1. And v2 you can easily find out if you multiply this equation, the first equation, with m1, right? If you multiply this first equation with m1, then what happens? Instead of m2, you have m1 minus m1, and you have m1 v2 minus m1 v1, right? And this is the second equation. Now what happens? Instead of subtracting equation 1 from 2, you add equation 1 and 2. 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 So when you add these two equations, then what happens? m1 u1 plus m2 u2, then this becomes plus m1 eu1, and this becomes minus m1 eu2, right? m1 eu2.
When do we add?
So now this one becomes m2 instead of m2, m1 u1, and this will be v2 m1 plus m2. So this becomes again u1 u1 m1 u1 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 m1. Now this becomes u1 m1, and you have 1 plus e here. m1 u1, m1 u1 you take common from this, m1 u1 you take from this and from this, right? And from this you get u2 u2 m2 minus e m1, m2 minus e m1, right? And your final equation v2 will be equal to v2 will be equal to u2 m2 minus em1 plus 1 plus e into m1 u1 divided by m1 plus m2, right? An easy way to remember this is that, a very easy way is to remember this. In the first, suppose this is your second equation v2. If you want to find out v1, then replace all the 2's with 1 and the 1's with 2. All the 1's with 2 and the 2's with 1. So for example, what will be v1? v1 will be u1 m1 minus em2 plus 1 plus e m2 u2 divided by m1 plus m2. Understood? Very easy to remember. And if you now want to find out, the values of V1 and V2 for perfectly elastic collision, then put E equals to 1. Then put E equals to 1 and you will get your result. And if you want to find out the velocities V1 and V2 after for a perfectly inelastic body, then put E equals to 0. Then put E equals to 0. Understood? Then you will get, and you will see in perfectly inelastic collision that V2 will be equal to V1 after you have put E equals to 0. Understood? So that's it for today's class.